Do you have to have 6 miscarriages? Do you have to have infertility and failed IVF in order for us to get this to work? Well, no. And this couple, this lady, single girl, came to us at age 31 in February of last year. She was engaged, due to get married in July of last year. She had premenstrual syndrome, fatigue, and her sister was coming to me for treatment for polycystic ovaries. And this girl wasn't sexually active, she was practicing her faith, and she wasn't yet trying to conceive. And the only reason she came was because her sister was feeling so good in treatment, and she recognised that her sibling had a bit of premenstrual syndrome, and maybe she'd benefit from some of the things that we had, because it works a treat for PMS. And this was her chart. So her chart was dramatically abnormal. She had premenstrual spotting, she had brown bleeding, and she had this premenstrual syndrome and profound fatigue. And we would look at her and say, you have gynecologic ill health. We need to restore this. You'll feel better, your chart will look better, and your fertility potential is going to be better. So we sorted out her low hormones, and I put her on endorphin stimulation with naltrexone, which is a beautiful treatment we use, and put her on some hormonal treatment, and she felt fantastic. Her PMS was gone, she was brimful of energy, and her progesterone levels were up to normal. But her chart was still abnormal. So we said, well, this is great, and normally this would have solved all of your problems, but your chart's telling us we haven't solved everything yet because the bleeding isn't right. And now this is May, and she's getting married in July, so we're kind of cutting it fine. And we did an ultrasound scan, and we confirmed what we clinically suspected, that she had polycystic ovaries, but you can't really appreciate it from the ultrasound there, but she had a polyp, small fleshy tissue within the cavity of her uterus. So we needed to get that removed, because that'll make it harder to get pregnant and higher risk for miscarriage. So referred her for hysteroscopy and polypectomy to have that removed, and then everything was sorted. Beautiful chart, felt great, brimful of energy, no PMS, lovely hormones, everything was great. Have a good honeymoon. And they did. And they conceived on their honeymoon. And I believe I was speaking to her sister recently, and she told me that she had a baby boy in April and everything went fantastically well. And the question for me is, this problem was identified and solved before it officially existed. If I'm doing research in the future, I would have to exclude her from my data, because she didn't have a year of infertility, so she didn't fit the definition of infertility, and she didn't have 3 miscarriages, so she didn't have a problem in the first place. So we diagnosed and treated the problem before it officially existed. And that's how radically advanced fertility care and NaPro Technology is. Not only did it solve her PMS and her fatigue, but it saved her all these other headaches down the line as well. This couple, they've gone public a few times to Dr. Eamon McMullen and his wife Louise, and they've had repeated failed IVF and success with NaPro, and that's NaPro Technology triplets, one at a time at their own choosing. And I was talking to him recently. When we get 3 babies, it's like they don't all come at the same time. They come spread out over one at a time over a number of years. And they were saying, you know, we don't know if we want to have another baby or not. They know with treatment they have the freedom to make that choice or not. They say, we're very busy and we're this, that and the other. They say, you know, we can't believe that we have the luxury of this, being able to try and decide like this, because before we couldn't even get pregnant. Now we have the luxury to decide, do we really want to try for another one or not? And there's a high probability that if they did try, that they would have success again. And this has just been a fantastic blessing for them, and they've been very generous in going public repeatedly with this, which is why I can mention their names. And in fact, he's trained in NaPro Technology as well. Faith and reason, the conflict is there. Science says, let's do it because we can. And let's take a picture of a sperm fertilizing an egg because we can. Science says, if I can't measure it, see it, touch it, feel it, smell it or taste it, then it doesn't exist. With faith, we believe on the 6th day God created man. In his own image he created him, male and female he created them. And the essence of life is a mystery. And any honest scientist will tell you, we don't really know what life is. You can't measure life. We can look at characteristics of living things, but we scientifically do not have a handle on what life is. With all the reproductive technologies, we're clever manipulators of life, but we can't create life. We have to get living things and manipulate them, but we can't actually measure it. So Really, life and creation retain a large amount of mystery. The more we know, the more we ought to bow in reverence and awe at the work of our Creator. 1 in 6 couples experience difficulty conceiving, and they often find it very difficult to follow a Catholic ethos. I talked about this stuff, so I'm just going to zip through. I don't need to say all the bad things about IVF other than to say that it's bad, and don't do it. Don't recommend people to do it. I find so many people that are under pressure to do it, and you say, well, I've got all these reasons why I should do it and all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. You can cut through it. Look, it's bad for you, just don't do it. Simplicity really helps. It's a sin. Anything that's sinful is going to hurt you, and it'll hurt you a lot. You can look at all the statistics. We put them all online, but you're better off avoiding it. And ultimately, a lot of it comes down that we're persons in relationship, and some things in life can't be delegated to a third party. You can't ask somebody to propose for you. You got to be there to do that in person. Usually, you got to be there to say "I do." Somebody told me there are exceptional circumstances where you don't have to, but most of the time you got to be there, and it's one of the most personal things I've ever done. I can't tell my secretary, I'm busy, would you ever go down and say happy birthday to my son? It's his birthday today. It's insulting to him. He'd be upset. I have to be there in person. I'm in relationship with him, and I've got to be there. A family graduation, your mother's funeral. Who else can be there but you? We're persons in personal relationship. And what in life is more personal than the act of trying to conceive for persons in relationship? A kiss, an embrace. Some things in life simply should not be delegated to a third party because it's depersonalizing and dehumanizing at the highest level. The Catholic vision of life is, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart, from Jeremiah. And this is a beautiful personal thing where God personally intervened to create each of us individually. The IVF version of life is, before I formed you in the womb, I made you, I graded you, I tested you, I froze you, and transferred you to your mother's uterus. That doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy. Person becomes product. It's official. And by the way, 19 of your siblings perished in the process, some of which were experimented on. They're official statistics from the IVF in the UK. The IVF conference that I mentioned that I was at recently, the Irish Fertility Society conference, one of the presenters put this up, and I took a picture with my mobile phone, which is why it's very fuzzy. But they said, we're perfecting a process. We started with the Model T Ford, and we used to get a lot of triplets, but now we've evolved. Like the Model T Ford has become the Toyota hybrid. More often we can get singleton pregnancies instead of triplets. And they didn't realize how dehumanizing that slide was, and everyone just accepted it. And to me, it was like, that's exactly it. It's a process. Person becomes product. We are persons, we're not products. And this is not a good thing to do from a human relationship point of view. The number of embryos lost in the UK, 2 million embryos dead since IVF began practice. A lot of those embryos are abnormal and incompatible with survival, but still there's that amount of human life lost as a process to get there. So the beautiful baby that results from IVF is beautiful, but what a price is paid to get there. And the question is that price too high to pay to get your result? NaPro Technology offers a pro-life alternative. It's kind to couples, no moral dilemmas, and a real chance of success. And then just to close, I'm nearly there. Sorry, I know we've gone over time. Everyone else kept time. Nearly there, sorry. With greater use of NaPro comes greater use of fertility care for family planning and less use of contraceptives. Contraceptives, used with full knowledge and full intent, decisively separate couples from life in the Trinity, and the fruit of contraception is death. This is something some people just have to accept in faith because it's a little bit hard to get your head around sometimes. There is a direct link statistically between the use of contraception and an increase in unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and abortion. Culturally, in every culture where contraception comes, the graphs for all of these things increase exponentially in tandem with contraception use. With contraception, you say yes to pleasure, you say no to baby. You sever the link between the unitive and the procreative, between lovemaking and life. With fertility care, you say yes to pleasure and you say, baby, well, maybe. We don't say no. We say it's a part of it. And in fact, our teachers are trained to counsel couples who use this for family planning. They proactively say, what is your intention using the system? If you get pregnant, would you have an abortion? And if they say, yes, I would, we proactively counsel those couples what an abortion is, what human life is, and how to respect it. And when somebody's in crisis, they can't hear that. But when they're using it for family planning, you can actually win them over. And something else happens, not just from the interaction of the teacher. Using the system, you put down a sticker and there's a baby on it each time. So you have very strong reasons why you don't want to get pregnant, and you're putting down your baby sticker and you're looking at each other and you're looking at the baby sticker and you're looking at each other again, and you realize the question isn't, do we want to make love tonight? The question is, do we want a baby tonight? And you kind of say, well, maybe the car can wait or the holiday can wait, and you find your reasons for not choosing life become less and less. And couples who use fertility care for family planning usually have larger families because they become more open to life, but they knowingly use the fertile time each time. So with contraception, abortion is necessary for unintended pregnancy from failed contraception. That's the direct call of Planned Parenthood, and this is why abortion is necessary and why it's enshrined in reproductive so-called rights. With fertility care, a baby was always a possibility. So contraception gives disrespect for fertility as well as newly conceived life, and culturally there's a subconscious mental shift in favour of abortion, whereas fertility care gives respect for fertility as well as newly conceived life, and there's a subconscious mental shift in favour of life. Contracepting couples unwittingly become more pro-abortion than they would intellectually realise, and we do the opposite. We're the antidote to that illness. And unfortunately, there's more abortions in Ireland and sexually transmitted infections than we would like. And the spiritual battle to close, that each choice, contraception or fertility care, IVF or NaPro Technology, each approach offers a completely different final destination, life or death. And it's a spiritual battle. I borrowed these words from Father Frank Pavone from Priests for Life. You know, our Lord's thing at Mass, at the consecration, where you lift up the host, and the words of the priest are, "This is my body," and this is Christ, and this is his body, and he gives his body away so that we might live, because we live because of what he has done. Because of his death, we live. Abortion supporters cling to their bodies so that others might die. It's the complete opposite. Same words, "This is my body," but completely opposite meanings. Christ teaches the meaning of love. I sacrifice myself for the good of the other person, whereas abortion teaches the opposite of love. I sacrifice the other person for the good of myself. Same words, "This is my body," but completely different meanings. And Father Frank Pavone tells us that human happiness and fulfillment are never found by pushing other people out of the way. They're found when we push ourselves out of the way. And Jesus proclaims that life finds its centre, its meaning and fulfillment when it's given up. It's no accident that the same words are used for such different purposes, and a spiritual conflict rages here. We win in our own lives and in the world by living these words in self-giving, life-giving love. When John Paul II was alive, Professor Hilders had the pleasure of presenting our textbook to him, and John Paul II, he contributed $50,000 for 4 consecutive years to the Pope Paul VI Institute in rich America. This is at a time where you had war, famine, hunger, and all these worthy causes globally, and the Pope looked around and said, "I'm giving my money to rich America because they need it for fertility care and NaPro Technology because they're in danger of closing." And to me it says, just how important is this? And when he was meeting the Pope, he met a certain cardinal along the way and had his picture taken with him. Providence working overtime. And in closing, all glory be to him whose power working in us can accomplish infinitely more than we can ask or imagine. And Einstein says there's 2 ways to live our life, one as though nothing is a miracle, and the other as though everything is a miracle. So faith and reason can go hand in hand, and he's one of the greatest scientific minds of our time.